Good evening, everybody. Today I'm going to do a short video here on ways to make sure that your best friend is eating correctly. So we're going to look particularly about ingredients to avoid in your pet's food. So who am I? Because I'm Liz Domday, first of all, for those that don't know. And because I've had the best nutrition going into my dogs and cats being so important to me, I began researching commercial pet foods back in the early 2000s. I soon found myself intrigued by everything I was finding and sharing that knowledge with others, which then inspired me to pursue certification in pet nutrition, along with many other certifications related to overall pet care. Over this time, I had complex spreadsheets that listed different high-quality dog foods and their qualities, and I would rotate through these foods for my dogs because I had not really found something that I thought was going to meet all my pets' needs. I've been a pet lover my entire life. I'm very interested in natural and preventative pet care, canine nutrition as well. I accumulated experience in these fields through many hours of independent and academic study. I'm a breeder of dachshunds and Nigerian dwarf goats as well. Do you really know what ingredients to avoid in your pet's food? You think you know what you're feeding your dog, but how much do you really know about the ingredients used in that food? When you pick up a package of dog food, it's very easy to be distracted by very pretty pictures and lofty health claims. But the important information is very easy to miss when distracted in these manners. Learning to read a pet food label is not something that comes overnight. It is a skill that takes practice and time to develop. If you simply want to know whether the food your dog is eating is good or bad, however, you can start by learning about some of the worst dog food ingredients that you should avoid in your dog's food. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But why do pet food manufacturers use low-quality ingredients in their products? The main reason is money. The lower the quality of the ingredient, the lower the price for manufacturing. That means that they can cut their own costs for production while still charging pet owners like you and I the same price. Not right, is it? So what are some of the worst dog food ingredients you should be on the lookout for? The list could go on forever, but here are my top choices for ingredients you should avoid in your pet's foods. There's a lot of really good debate regarding the value of corn as an ingredient. Some say it is a valuable source of digestible fiber and protein, but others say that it's a little more than a filler ingredient and a common allergen. I personally believe that corn doesn't have a place in high-quality dog food, especially if it's used as one of the main ingredients. Corn has a bad reputation as a dog food ingredient. While corn itself's a whole grain, there's a number of things wrong with it as an ingredient in pet foods. Corn is notoriously hard to digest, and many pets have digestive sensitivities related to corn. Also, since it has high protein concentration for a grain, it's often added to dog food to raise the protein percentages. However, this protein does not contain the necessary amino acids, and its nutrients are not nearly as available for absorption into the large intestine and for use by the body as many other animal sources such as chicken and eggs. Lastly, corn is subsidized, very cheap grain, so its inclusion is a marker that your pet food is looking to cut corners on nutrition for their own profits. Next, we're going to look at artificial colors. They make things look very appealing. Artificial colors have been linked to hyperactivity as well as several biochemical processes within the body. The only real reason artificial colors are used in any food is to make the food look better to you. Then let's talk about corn syrup. We know it's bad for our health, But did you know this cheap, sweeter than sugar sweetener can be found in pet food and treats too? Corn syrup, much like refined sugar, causes spikes in blood sugar and contributes to weight gain, obesity, and diabetes. It's very addictive, and the more your dog eats, the more he'll develop a taste for all things sugary sweet. Lastly, how about soy? While soy is one of those few plant protein sources that actually contain all necessary amino acids, it's often difficult for pets to digest, causing bloat and gas. It's a cheap ingredient. It's plentiful in many low-quality pet foods as a protein percentage booster as well. This is also a common allergen. Soy is best to avoid altogether if you have pets. Vegetables and fat. Two things your pets need, right? Well, yes, but not in the form of vegetable oil, which is primarily composed of cheap corn and soybean oils. Vegetable oil, like most non-specific ingredients, often contains high levels of omega-6 fatty acids. While these fatty acids are essential, pets eating a processed commercial diet often have way more of the essential acids than is healthy. These excess fats can exacerbate arthritis, hip and joint problems, and many other medical conditions. Other nondescript protein source, animal byproducts. These are the remnants of the animal carcasses after all the meat and bones has been removed. What does that mean? Animal byproducts are not all bad. They are legally required to be of feathers, hooves, hair, hide, beaks, and other non-edible parts of the animal. Organ meats are a type of animal byproduct and are a healthy ingredient in pet food. The issue with animal byproducts, and the reason they made the list, is that they are nutritionally inconsistent. Unnamed animal byproducts can be so heavily processed that little to no nutrition is left for the pet. Additionally, byproducts are often cheaply sourced, so you'll never know if the byproduct is used in your pet's diet is actually providing valuable nutrition. If you want to stick to healthy animal byproducts, look for foods that use named animal parts like heart, liver, kidney, as opposed to unnamed and questionable animal byproducts. Next is powdered cellulose, and this definitely should be avoided at all cost. Cellulose is just a fancy word for sawdust. Yes, that's what the picture is, sawdust. You just don't want your dog eating sawdust, do you? Cellulose is a plant or wood fiber. What's wrong with cellulose being in your dog food? Fiber is about all the nutrition cellulose provides. It basically is indigestible. While fiber is beneficial to digestion, if you or your pet are eating a balanced diet with whole foods, including lots of fruits, veggies, and unrefined grains, you should be getting all the fiber you need. The real reason cellulose is even being added to pet food is that it is a cheap binder and can be used in diet foods to resemble fats. Oh, and let's not forget, it's dirt cheap. It literally grows on trees. Last on this page is salt. That is table salt. Table salt is mined and processed to give it its fine texture and bright white color. Avoid table salt in your pet's food. Alternatively, look for sea salt, which is created through evaporation of salt water or salt deposits. It contains more minerals than table salt and helps balance pet electrolytes. Also called animal fat, rendered fat is a very low quality ingredient in dog food. While fats from animals can be healthy for your dog, animal fat or poultry fat comes from unidentified animals, which in the pet food industry often means 4D. dead, diseased, dying, or disabled animals. This fat can come from roadkill, dead zoo animals, or even euthanized animals. It is often rancid, and its inclusion in your pet's food means that other questionable ingredients, such as nondescript flavor, will be added to cover up the taste. The other problem with this low quality fat is the toxin load. Many toxins are stored in animal fat. So low quality fats contain more fat soluble toxins than more desirable descriptive fats such as chicken fat or beef fat. Next is brewer's rice. This is a common carbohydrate source in low quality dog foods, but it's also an ingredient you should avoid. While it may sound like a whole grain, brewer's rice most definitely is not. Brewer's rice is not even whole white rice. It's fragments of rice that are left over after the white rice has been processed. Brewer's rice contains few nutrients, only really serving as a source of quick energy for your pet. The fun one, propylene glycol. Does that sound familiar to you? Yes, it's the very common ingredient in newer antifreeze. While not as toxic as its relative, ethanol glycol, the FDA-approved propylene glycol is still of questionable safety. In fact, it's been banned in many countries or is at least tolerated at a much lower level. Used to keep moisture in semi-moist foods, propylene glycol may be toxic in large amounts. While it can be safely metabolized by your dog's liver into safe compounds, and the manufacturer assures us its safety for use in food, propylene glycol has been found to be toxic to cats. So much so that propylene glycol is not allowed as an ingredient in cat food. You're better off just to say no to propylene glycol, especially if you have cats in the house. Do you drink cola? You'll find propylene glycol in there and many other common processed products such as beer, margarine, cake mix, and flavored coffee. So what the heck is meat? Meat meal or bone meal? Meat is healthy for your pet. It should actually comprise most of your pet's diet. However, if you see unnamed quote unquote meat, meat meal, or meat and bone meal, you know that your pet is getting the worst source of meat he could in processed food. Meat is another one of those nondescript food items that keeps cropping up in the list of bad food ingredients. When manufacturers include anything goes nondescript terms such as meat, it's always a guess at what's in them. These ingredients are always the leftovers, and the only guarantee is that there's no guarantee on any standard of quality. The ingredients can be diseased from dead animals, from expired meat sections in grocery stores, or even include tumors, you name it. Once this Frankenstein concoction's compiled, it's heated extensively to remove any pathogens that might be there, which you can almost guarantee they are. This process also removes most of the nutrients that might be in these questionable ingredients. The result is a difficult to digest, nutritionally void filler that boosts the protein percentage on your dog food bag, but adds little usable protein for your pet. Dog food fillers can be hard to define and are often subject to trends. AAFCO, the Association of American Feed Control Officials, doesn't give a definition, and fillers aren't recognized as a thing by the nutrition community. But dog food fillers are worth discussing. Generally, the term fillers describe unhealthy ingredients in pet food that have little or no nutritional value. They could have been replaced by higher quality alternatives and aren't biologically appropriate for your dog. Other things to look out for are preservatives, BHA, BHT, ethoxyquin, and artificial sweeteners. As dog owners, we need to take responsibility for what we feed our pets and learn more about the food we choose. When choosing dog food, always read the ingredients. Never choose a food for your pet because it says, in quotes, recommended by veterinarians, as this statement is often misleading. All this statement means is that the dog food company has a vet on staff that is paid to say they recommended the food. Also, don't use a food just because your personal vet recommends it. Vets are gifted to recommend the food to their clients. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you or your pet. If you have a vet you feel that you can trust, ask him or her about the food, and of course, always read the label. The first ingredient on the list should be meat, nothing else. There are many high-quality dog foods out there. Just be sure to look beyond the pretty packaging many companies spend lots of money on to gain your attraction. The super premium, minimally processed foods are filled with nutritional ingredients such as free-range chicken, organic vegetables, and whole fruits, complete with antioxidants. These foods do not contain cheap, questionable ingredients that many manufacturers use to turn a high profit or make their food impossibly cheap. Price is not always an indicator of quality, but the ingredients list doesn't lie. That is, if you know how to read it.